Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
Hello and welcome back to the All In Podcast. We are once again recording regularly, which is kind of cool. We are here just to talk about one series because we just made an episode on Saturday that would have come out for you guys, and now we're just talking about C9 versus FlyQuest, the series that happened on Sunday. First round, I think a lot of us, not just me and you, but the whole analyst desk, were thinking C9. But Alistair, who is not here today, actually did predict FlyQuest, I think, right? I
Yep,
think he said
he did.
FlyQuest 3-2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So not bad for the old college student. But yeah, otherwise, how you doing, Kevin? How's life been since then, I
Doing
guess?
well, just working as usual, but it's been busy. And as for League wise, been having a lot of fun actually playing League, which is probably because I've been taking long breaks because of travel, so I enjoy it more when I'm playing. But uh,
Mm,
I think like because I will say we live in a world where we just have 380 carries at a time, and like we haven't really. I kind of wanted to get into it with Alistar, but we didn't have a good moment to transition to that. So I was like, we really are in a meta where 80 carries just play top mid jungle or top mid support 80 carry and sometimes
yeah.
support.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm sure it's not broken.
I
This is fine.
mean, yeah, there are also jungle 80 carries, right? Two of them just got buffed, and 14.17 Graves and Kindred are buffed. So theoretically, it's possible to get a 580 carry team. Just saying, it is. It's within the meta like constraints to be able to do that. I mean, it's not gonna be good, but T1 they're gonna do that, right?
They're gonna do that.
I mean, let's just think about it, because
You could play Ash
14.17.
bot. You could play Senna bot.
Yep, you could play normal HC, you could play Corki mid, you could do something like Zeri or Corki top, like lots of teams have done already.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could just have
Smolder
Graves,
can cover
Kindred
for
jungle.
AP and true damage.
Yep, Smolder mid, mid, Corki top, yep, true damage from Corki as well, Zeri. Um, Ezreal can go mid and ADC, right? You could also theoretically play Zeri jungle. It's actually not that bad. I've played it before. The clear is
Really?
pretty decent. Yeah, yeah, it's stupid. The clear is of all the 80 carry junglers that are like not Graves and Kindred, I've played like Zeri, I've played Kaisa, and I've played Ezreal,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Zeri's definitely the best out of all three of those. So pretty weird, pretty weird. But let's talk about the game that we are here to talk about today. Cloud9 versus FlyQuest. Started off game one. Cloud9 did win, but just barely. A lot of people are saying that this was almost a 4-0 by FlyQuest because FlyQuest really just fumbled the end of game one for Cloud9. So what were your thoughts kind of like at the beginning of the series and, you know, like that first game, right? Like how did you feel?
I felt like in this game specifically, I agree. Yeah, I agree with the 4-0. If Masu just didn't die to the Turk because of the burn and Busio leaving to tank, like I don't think he thought that the aggro would happen, and then the aggro
Mm,
just like completely killed him. If Masu doesn't die, it's an easy win, right? And
yeah.
so it really is a game of inches, and C9 basically did not. I get the vibe, not just in this game, but especially this game is like the prelude to it all.
Yep.
That they didn't really proactively do anything
Mm,
this whole series, and game one was the start. Like there was a few little actions, but like Blabber getting first team all pro and then having this performance was extremely disappointing.
mm. Mhm. I can definitely agree with that sentiment. I don't think either of us put Blabber as first team All Pro, right?
We
Um,
didn't. No, we
yeah,
put
we didn't.
Umpty inspired Blabber this season because we thought Blabber was underperforming going in, and
Yeah,
I didn't actually. I was shocked by the all pro vote, which we can talk about later too.
yeah, and I think the All Pro vote. I mean, we'll just talk about Blabber and Cloud9 specifically because they're the most interesting topic. It must be with the scrim thing because I've heard multiple times now, especially from FlyQuest players and talking about C9's level and Team Liquid or in Core JJ actually specific his comments too, and that C9 is are monsters in scrims and actually even with their great regular season, were like very deflated in on stage compared to their scrims. So I heard Inspired say multiple times, like, yeah, we played against them in the regular season. We did lose, but they played nothing like how they were in scrims. So like he was confident that going into their playoffs match that it would be FlyQuest favored, and he was right because this was not a good showing from C9. Um, yeah, so yeah, going back to this game one, it did feel like Cloud9 was playing a lot of like heavy macro, but otherwise playing very slow, like kill and team fight wise, right? Like it, they just like only grouped and fought around objectives, and you kind of have to think like if you're playing against Ivern Smolder, you got to do something. You got to pick up the pace a little bit, right? You have Leona, you have MF. You got to pick up the pace, get some more kills. Like, don't just wait for fourth dragon to get all your kills done. Like, do something before. Because honestly, what I want to ask you this question: what are your thoughts on Soul right now? On Dragon Soul? Um, yeah. Do you think it's like that good these days? Because I've seen more and more games where teams rush Dragon Soul and it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't change the impact of the game.
Yeah. I would actually say that three of the souls are impactful out of
Yeah.
five, but that's not enough. And there has been a power creep of win condition. So Smolder, for example, right? FlyQuest and like KT even more egregiously against T1 earlier last week, just
Mm.
don't give a shit. They're like, you can have every dragon. If we steal one, luckily, sure, we'll delay it and we can get even more snacks. But like, we're like, no matter what soul you get, if Smolder's on the team and we're at the point naturally where there's four souls, unless the Smolder got super camp, they're going to be at like 300 stacks.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just do not care at that point, right? You have Infernal, that's cute.
Yeah.
So I think that the soul in a regular game is fine, but we have so many like win cons where like, with 380 carries, for example, like is your Ocean Soul gonna do anything? No.
Hmm.
Is your
Yeah.
Chemtech gonna do anything? No.
Yeah.
So Chemtech, right? Yeah, Chemtech. And then
Yeah.
Hextech is decent, Infernal's decent, Mountain's still usable, right? But you don't know going into the game what you're going to get. So we've mentioned this for years now. You should know what the soul is coming in the draft so that you can plan with that. But I think this is like the logical extreme where there's so many win cons around, right? With 380 carries or two, even on average, and Corky, Azir being a pseudo 80 carry mage, like, sorry, a carry mage, and
Yeah.
then Smolder as like the big offenders in my head. I'm like, dude, when Zeri's not a scaling pick, I'm like, holy shit, where are we playing?
Yeah. Yeah. Zeri is kind of like a mid-game like burst champion almost
Yeah.
these days, right? She's like one-shotting people, which is pretty weird. Yeah, I have to agree. Like I when you have champions, and it's not even just Smolder, right? If you go back to just previous metas or just slight variations of our current meta, like Aurelion Sol is the same problem, right? It just gets to a point where it's like you could have like 10 dragons and he's just gonna AoE one shot true damage execute your whole team, right? Smolder and Asol are the same thing. And then you have Senna, right? Senna's fairly regular. Right now we're dealing with Enchanter Senna, but AD carry or AD fasting Senna or whatever it was, lethality Senna was really strong before Enchanter Senna came along, and that's another one of those. It's like, is Senna in the late game by the time you get to 30 minutes really going to care about your Dragon Soul? Not really, like this champion's shooting you from half a mile away. So it is interesting how the game has crept so like extreme that yeah, Dragon Soul does not feel impactful. It feels like if you want to get this early game comps where you stack dragons and you like force the game to end early and you know you're playing on a timer, like you have to do much more than just get a really fast Dragon Soul. You have to like get a fast Dragon Soul, but also take all the grubs, right? Because grubs is another win condition if you really think about it. Six grubs is actually an insane win con. It does so much damage to turrets. So there's so many things on in the game now that like don't really care about drags. And also when you think about like all those times that let's say for example C9 is getting a dragon, right? Well, it's actually really useful to just like go trade a tier 1 turret on the other side because they give so much gold now. Turrets in general just give a lot of gold these days. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I did so feel like Cloud9 stacked all these early drags, and we're like, oh shit, it feels like it doesn't matter at all because they have Smolder Ivern. So that was the feeling of game one, right? It just felt like a big draft gap almost, and then just a little execution
Yeah.
flubber, and then yeah, let's talk about the rest of the series because FlyQuest kind of cleaned up the series after this. It wasn't really that close, if we're being honest, after this game. So tell me some thoughts of the rest of the series and just FlyQuest taking the wins.
Yeah, so actually, one of my thoughts is I thought Thanatos played decently this series. He was on literally Casante duty, but
Hmm.
I thought he made compared to his regular season, he made space. I thought he was mechanically really good,
Hmm.
laned decently considering how little pressure he was getting for him.
Hmm.
I thought in general I was pretty impressed by him as a highlight. Once again, I don't remember Berserker that much. Vulcan, we were gonna have to point out
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. That
sixth
was
man
bad.
in the game, right?
Yeah, that was
And
yeah.
then JoJo was kind of non-existent too. I feel like him picking 4 games of Corki, like this is the whole theme, right? They were like, okay, we're just gonna go Corki Lilia 3 games in a row, and like they had this, they basically salty ran back a lot of the core of the
Hmm.
draft, right? A tank, engage, support, which we do think
Casante.
Vulcan is good at. It is
Yeah.
what he's famous for, and then a carry on their best player, sure. And then Lilia's like a good control pace jungle. Like I understood the plan, but there was no adaptation. Like if this is a Reaper team, I'm extremely disappointed because it's like you know what this reminds me of?
Hmm.
Remember Reaper led Sven Yumi 4 games or 5 games in a row? It was 3 games in a row.
Oh.
They just lost 0-3 with Sven on it was like Yumi Ezreal 3 games in a row.
Yeah, it was when he was on TS or not TSM. It was on, yeah, it was on C9. Like
It was
yeah,
still
yeah, I
C9, yeah.
remember. Yeah, yeah,
So this is the stubbornness I felt like they had the game plan, they had their confidence in the game plan, but then they lost game 1. They're like, oh, dude, we almost won though. Like, so let's do it again, and then they just kept going until it was far gone. It felt like they tilted in real time, and the draft I think was the biggest indicator. Also, props to Quad and props to Masu, especially this game. Not just because of the kill records, but like they played really solid.
yeah.
For the most part. I think there was one time Quad got caught. So that's my like rundown on the game.
Yeah, I would say Quad had a really shaky game 1 and a couple of oopsies for the rest throughout the rest of the series, but like besides like game 1 and a couple of oopsies, Quad was really legit. He was pretty good, I thought. Um yeah, I have to agree with the Cloud9 came in with one strategy. It didn't really
Mm-hmm.
work if we're being honest. I mean, like I do. Okay, we'll talk about Thanatos because I want to match your point. I do agree. Thanatos played well, mechanically in lane. In game 2, he had that great moment where he went to proxy. He went between the tier 3 and tier 2 turrets, so a deep proxy. Um, and then uh, Okay, so I was watching Cagel's co-stream live, okay, and Cagel, it, even though he's gotten more popular and is a bit more like twitchy, bit more like brain rotty these days, he's still the goat, okay? He's a genius because he literally said Bwipo was gonna TP to second turret, and then literally within a second, Bwipo does it. I was like, oh my god, he's the prophet. What the hell? So Bwipo TPing to that second turret to try and like get the kill on the Cassante had to be the most troll thing ever. That was a very bad choice from Bwipo. And then Quad, he does come in though to like try to finish off Thanatos, but he misses his W just barely on the Smolder, and then he tries to flash Q, and he still gets executed. So Thanatos was pretty. That was a pretty great play. That was like full Baus impression. Honestly, very proud of him. Very proud. That was fun to watch.
And the worst part is he could have just flashed and killed guaranteed, but he tried to go for a max range W. It
Yeah.
didn't kill. Then he panic flash queued and barely didn't hit. Like I think it was like zero
Mm.
point 0.1 seconds away.
Yep.
But yeah, that was the
Yeah.
start the Smolder had.
That was the start, and then you know what happened? He ended that game 9-1, right? That's how big the draft diff was. If we talk about even teams, even draft, that kind of play is like devastating. To lose your top laner's TP and to lose your mid laner's flash and to get the proxy off successfully, that would be like devastating, right? But the draft diff was way too big, and the honestly the mental diff and skill diff was like pretty telling because I think JoJo had a great game 1 and a pretty decent game 2, but it was the like a random team fight. I think in game 2 or game 3, maybe it was game 3, where JoJo was doing really well, but he was just positioning in team fights like a complete monkey. Like his team, like his team is all grouped. Oh, it's the Amumu game that Blabber played, right? He's playing Corki, Blabber's playing Amumu. The game's kind of even. It's that dragon, right? All of Cloud9 is like walking down to bot lane because FlyQuest is kind of pushing him down off the off the dragon, and they can wait for cooldowns, they can regroup, and they can try to take the dragon again. But Jojo just loses his mind, decides to just go into the tri bush and run away from his team, and he dies. He gets picked off by I think a random Jin W, and it's like, what? Why did you go there by yourself, Jojo? You just got yourself killed, and then your team tried to like salvage it and save you, and then they died. So Jojo has been very questionable this year, I think as a whole. It's sad because he is one of our like prosperous talents, but this is his third year now, and he's gotten worse actually as he's gotten older. So kind of rough. He had a bad playoffs last split too. So yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. I I want NA talent to continue to grow, and like the thing is, it's not like he's lacking competition. That was our argument before, right? It's like he had a
yeah,
bad team on EG at times, or not EG. Yeah, the last version of EG, right?
yeah,
Bad
yeah, yeah.
team, had to carry it, and then
Yeah.
there wasn't that much NA talent, right? He was number one, and then like number two is like who, like Jensen or Pearson,
Palafox. Yeah.
or no, at the year of EG, was it
Oh, you're
Palafox
talking
at
about
that?
what are you talking
I'm
about?
talking about like
2023 or
yeah,
2022?
I'm talking about 2022 when it was like old EG about to disband
Oh yeah, that
EG,
was
and then
Bjergsen. Yeah,
when he
yeah,
was still
yeah,
peaking, right? And you were
yeah.
like, oh, he can keep up his form even without competition. Now he's got APA challenging him. Quad is solid. Quid is solid. Like they're very good players. Like
Hmm.
this is a league where you're getting reps that you can scrim against real talent. So
Yeah.
how are you getting worse?
Yeah, he's gotten worse, and I think C9 as a whole is just like slowly getting worse and worse as they're like changing their player or staff. They're changing their coaching, right? They went from like they used to have like during all their time where they're winning so much stuff, they had Max Waldo and Mithy super regularly, always there. But both of them are gone now, and now Mithy is on FlyQuest and beating them, right? So, like was Mithy the problem or was something else the problem? And I think a lot of us were down to get rid of Mithy, but I mean, looking back, it's like maybe we were wrong. I don't know. Some of his drafts were stubborn, right? The things that they do at Worlds that made us all like really dislike Fudge and stuff. But at least they got to Worlds. I don't know if the C9 will get to Worlds, right? We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna move on to look at the future eventually, but like just to continue more on this series C9 versus FlyQuest. Um, like FlyQuest just played the Exodia drafts, right? Like they didn't care. They just played the Exodia drafts, and it looked so much better than whatever the hell C9 was doing. Um, like why is C9 feeling like they're coming in with one draft strategy? I don't know. It's like it to me it feels like C9 is like they're like the smart students that's like submitting everything at the last minute, and it's like making them not look as good. And then FlyQuest is like, they're not like the star-studded talented like easy A students, but they studied way more, they had way more ideas about the draft, they seemed way more coordinated, and they won a nearly 4-0 series. So I don't know what's up with C9. I don't know why they looked so unadaptable and so bad. But yeah, I don't know. Any closing thoughts on this series before we kind of look at future predictions?
I think my only closing thoughts are I didn't mention him in this series, but I saw some comments about Bwipo's Redect to be his best character and like why did they give it to him? I don't really feel like it was that scary,
Mm,
honestly, throughout the
mm,
series. He
mm-hmm.
did his job, and that's
Yeah.
about as much as I'll give because I really didn't feel maybe I'm missing the macro aspect to it because I was just watching. I was like, wow, what is going on? This is like a very one sided series. But
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't feel like it was that impactful, even though they won a lot of their games, right? I think he was actually kind of, if you were just looking at hands and knowledge of matchups, I felt like Thanatos played better.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Blippo was very important in this series just because he was just willing to be the guy that started the fight, right? But like the execution of him starting the fight
Mm.
always looked super jank, right? Because it looks like he's just jumping in there, tanking everything, and because he's Renekton with Asterix, he lives and his whole team wipes him, right? Like you've seen it, like we play tons of ARAMs, right? Sometimes all you have to do is int. You just run in there, int, and because they use their cooldowns and spend time on you, your team just runs over them, and that's what it felt like. So like, yeah, I mean, I think Bwipo did his job in the sense that he knew he had a massive draft gap, so just start
Mm.
the fight and the game's over. Because that would happen every time. And it's like, yeah, it's a like they have Ivern, right? You dump everything on this Renekton, he gets a Steric shield, he gets an Ivern shield. Well, okay, well now the Zir or the Smolder or whatever is just gonna come in and like murder you all because well, I do think Renekton is kind of stupid in that if he does get ahead and he builds a Sterix and he gets to ulti and heal and stuff, that champion tanks like 6,000 damage, right, in a mid game fight. So, yeah, I do think some people can be right when they say his Renekton pick was pivotal, but it was the whole draft was a big deal, right? I think it was just the fact that they knew they had a winning team fight draft, no matter kind of how things shook out.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with you on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Mm.
I agree that captures the feeling I had. I think yes, they needed the Renekton to be there, but I watched so many flanks and like awkward moments where like, oh, I just blew Sterex and I actually didn't do anything. And I guess we'll just reset because Cloud9's not going to punish this anyways. But I felt like he didn't have the vibe that he truly understood what his timing and angle of attack is. He just knew he needed to be there and do this activity, and honestly, that was enough most of the time. But I
Yeah.
just could feel this energy of like this is not optimal.
Yeah, I don't think it was optimal either. I don't think it's gonna work out if there wasn't a massive draft gap or if there wasn't like a massive kind of skill gap either. Because, like, let's talk a bit more about Blabber. Okay, I was actually pretty hyped about this Amumu game because I do think Amumu is really strong right now. And
Mm-hmm.
we could maybe see it more. Like in pro play, we already saw. I think in EU, we saw in LEC someone play Amumu jungle and they won with it. But like, oh my god, man, he was so bad at the Amumu. I don't know why he picked Amumu when he looked so bad at like just pick a carry champion, man. Like if you're gonna look this uncomfortable because he was tremendously useless. He had one good ulti where they able to time like the MF bullet time with the Seraphine or the Senna ulti and stuff like that, and it was cool. But like, you can do that at level 6, right? You can literally send it down bot level 6 and just get so many kills and get those ultimate hunter stacks and just start rolling. But he played it like a weird frontliney tank with Leandries, where you kind of like soak some damage and then go in, and it kind of be too late. And then, so pretty disappointed in that because I was really excited for the Amumu MF Senna combo, especially when Senna is like this version with the AP stuff. Yeah, and then let's see, anything notable in Game 4? It was a super stomp, right? Yeah, it was 14-0. Then you get a single kill. Yeah, yeah.
It was
Black.
almost a perfect game, besides a couple turrets, I think.
Yeah, a couple turrets and I think grubs. Yeah, or C9. What C9 got? I mean, this is Berserker Zeri, right? Berserker Zeri used to be feared across the entire country, right? Like across the entire NA, Berserker Zeri was like an omen of death, an omen of pentakill, and now it is
Yep.
so trash. It does nothing and is really useless and not a play. Like he was a playmaker. He would roam around. He would just like you just felt the pentakill coming when he would play Zeri, but not anymore. Not anymore. And I do love the Jarvan pick from Inspired. I just think that right now the way the meta is built is that there are so many champions you can punish with Jarvan. This isn't even one of those, right? Cloud9 has like 3 out of their champions have dashes, right? Cassante, Corki, and Zeri all have dashes. This really wouldn't be a good Jarvan game, and he still picked it. I think there are so many drafts out there where Jarvan just like you don't. It doesn't matter that you're behind in farm. It doesn't matter that you're not carrying gold. Your ulti is so impactful because they don't have the enemy team doesn't have dashes that like you just pick Jarvan, you win, right? So I do like that pick. I wonder if we'll see more of it. Yeah, okay, let's move on and let's look into the future because this is supposed to be a short episode, just covering one series. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we have uh, we're gonna have Team Liquid play
Yep.
FlyQuest.
FlyQuest.
That'll be good. And then we're gonna have Dignitas rematch with 100 Thieves, and then we're gonna have C9 play whoever wins that. So let's actually start with Dignitas 100 Thieves. We already made our predictions, right? I think you said 100 Thieves was gonna
Yep.
win. I think I said 100 Thieves was gonna win. I said it was gonna be a 3-2 though. I thought it was gonna be pretty close. Um, yeah, I think we can just stick with those predictions, right? Has your mind changed at all since then? No. Okay, so let's assume that 100 Thieves beats Dignitas. Okay, I see it that Dignitas is gonna like step it up quite a bit, and that this 100 Thieves and Dignitas series is gonna be much closer than the first time they ran into each other. Um, and 100 Thieves will be forced to improve, and hopefully they'll learn a lot from the Team Liquid series. Coming into the C9 match, do you think 100 Thieves has a chance against C9? Like, what's kind of your prediction in that area? Like,
I said all these disparaging comments about C9 just now. I'm gonna keep it short and simple. It's C9 in lower bracket. It's C9 before Worlds. Like this
yeah.
is, I think they're screwed. I think 100 Thieves is going to get
Mm,
smacked. I think that when you see C9 mad, when you see them be like, we're so much better than this org has very you do not bet against them in the lower bracket, and
yeah.
I at least at this point in the early, like they never lose this early. So
Mm.
I'm sorry, it's gonna be like a 3-1. It's like it's a 3-1 that looks very close, or not very close. Sorry.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I could maybe see that. I could maybe see that. I do think Cloud9 is a lot better at playing lane swaps than I actually felt like Cloud9 was better at playing lane swaps than FlyQuest were at certain times, and they're better at playing lane swaps than definitely 100 Thieves or Dignitas probably. So that'll probably be a problem for 100 Thieves. Um, I do kind of worry about Cloud9's coordination. Okay, I do think the laning phase, the early pathing, the early objective controlling is all going to be in Cloud9's favor. So that gives them a huge edge. That's a big part of the game. But when it comes to mid game macro, late game team fighting, just mid game, just coordinating in general for skirmishes and stuff, I feel like I still want to give it to 100 Thieves. And it's not even the fact that I don't think they have better hands, but I just feel like 100 Thieves is more willing to be on the same page. Like they're more able to like read each other subconsciously and like do things together. Where C9 is definitely 5 players doing their own thing, but they're pretty good at what they do, so it works out enough. Um, so I don't know. I'm hesitant to just give it to C9, and I'm gonna throw it back. Okay, this is my beginning of the split predictions. This is the first episode we did to introduce Summer Split LCS. I actually put 100 Thieves as third place. I said they were gonna go to Worlds. I said it was gonna be TL C9 and 100 Thieves, and maybe it's TL FlyQuest 100 Thieves. I don't know, maybe. So is that insane? That's pretty insane. That's pretty cooked, right? That's pretty like dumb. I'm gonna predict it. Okay, just because I do feel like there's something there. Because the reason that Cloud Knight is here in the first place is because
Mm-hmm.
they're fallible. They can definitely lose. And I don't think they have their shit together. I don't think C9 has their shit together at all. I don't think they're like ready. They didn't come into playoffs prepared. I think if you were to like be a mosquito on the wall and like look into what's going on behind the scenes, you would realize that C9 is actually like just fumbling. They're just putting stuff together, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it works. But their players are just good enough, and the rest and lower seed NA teams are just weak enough that they look super dominant and stuff like that. Um, I feel like 100 Thieves is a more coordinated team with weaker players. So I'm gonna go. I don't know. Maybe I just want a 5 game banger or two, an upset. I'm gonna go 3-2 100 Thieves. It's cooked. Okay, maybe it's cooked. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like there's something
This
there.
is the definition we give Cloud9 every time.
Yep. I mean, hey, Cloud9 has missed Worlds before. They have. They've done it. I think only once, but they've done it. This would be the second time I think they've ever missed Worlds if I predict this. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling it. I like this 100 Thieves team. Um, Yeah, there's no way it's gonna happen, but I'm predicting it. It's gonna happen. All right, now let's move on to TL versus FlyQuest. I don't even need to ask you. I already know what your prediction is, but let me hear it anyways. What's your prediction? TL versus FlyQuest.
You want to know my number, right? I think it's
Yeah.
going to be close. I think that
Okay. Okay.
FlyQuest is hot right now. They've
Yeah.
made Worlds, so Liquid just like might not play their best. It's probably a 3-2 Liquid, but I think it's going to be a fun competitive match. just like the
Okay.
first time when it was 2-1 and it's very close.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, I would like to think so as well. I think they're both kind of playing really well right now. I think FlyQuest is definitely more prone to mistakes, right? I think Blippo, Buzio, and a little bit Quad are much more prone to mistakes than their counterparts on TL. I feel like Impact is just the goat right now. He is not. He does not make mistakes right now. He is really, really clean with it. I think Cordier J could have a tendency to make mistakes here and there. It's because he's an engaged support champion, but it's nowhere near the level where Buzio is at. Um, if you look at interviews with Bwipo or Inspired, or you hear like in-game comms, especially with Inspired. There was the classic one where like Inspired was just like complaining and went like, "Come on, please, Buzio, you have to walk up. We can't walk up, blah blah blah," or something like that. So I do think Buzio is under a lot of pressure on this roster. Buzio is under a lot of pressure to perform and to make like snap engages, because yeah, I think he is a little hesitant, right? It's why we always see Bwipo is the one jumping in and engaging instead of like your Nautilus, because Buzio doesn't have that edge, doesn't have that fire, right? There was like literally one glaring time where I saw Bwipo dash flash in on Renekton, and like Bwipo and Buzio was like pathing to go clear a pink ward, and then he stopped clearing the pink ward to go join the fight, and I was like, okay, that was terrible, but they still won because their draft advantage was way too big, but yeah, it's gonna be have to be FlyQuest, or it has to be Team Liquid. Team Liquid's taking this.
Oh, I was like,
No,
oh, I
no,
was
no, no,
listening to it all. I'm like, I agree, and then
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
you hit me with it.
No, that was a little typo, audio typo. No,
Holy
it's
shit!
Team Liquid, Team Liquid, Team Liquid's winning. Team Liquid's for sure winning. I think they're winning this split. I don't think they're dropping a series. Um, are they gonna drop a? Are they gonna go 3-2? I don't think it's gonna be that close actually. I kind of want to say 3-0, but I'm gonna say 3-1. I'm gonna say 3-1. I'm gonna say 3-1. Yeah, yeah. I'll say 3-1. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, okay. Yeah. So you're gonna say 3-2? Okay. You're a hesitant, nervous TL fan. I try to look at it just straight facts, but you're like you gotta give TL some, yeah, some some caution.
I've seen stuff.
You've seen stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. You have. It's been a long time since TL's been like on top, Like a long time. So, yep, yep.
That
Okay,
T1
yes.
game haunts me from this world's.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. T1 game. Honestly, the Bjergsen year really really hurt my TL hype for a while. That was hard. That was a hard year for me.
That was
Yeah.
such a hype year. I really wanted it to work, but it's just a guy past his prime, man. Like, are we gonna get Faker when he's about to retire? Like, what's gonna happen?
Hey, I would take that. I don't care. I don't care if that guy runs it
I'd take
down.
it too.
Yeah. Dude, I like it would be sad, but I don't care. If Faker came to NA and just ran it down 24/7, I would still watch it. I would want him to be I would want him to finish out the season. Like, please run it down every single game, but show up. I want to see as much as you as possible. But yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the weekend leading up. I think everybody's predicting a TL championship. The seeding's really going to be the interesting thing, and but seeing if anybody can rise up to the occasion and knock down TL, but I just don't think it's possible. Not this year. All right. Um, any other stuff going around the news? Any other League of Legends stuff we can talk about? I did have one other
Yeah,
topic I could talk about. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So two quick things. One,
Mhm.
LDR, dumbest item ever.
Mhm. Don't buy it.
Why is it just 10 more AD and then doesn't have heal cut? Like, what did we do with this item, Riot? So
Yep. Yep.
that's my
Don't buy it.
first one.
Mhm.
I guess two more. And then Nasus mid,
Oh,
and Garen
yeah.
mid are just a thing now.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if we'll see it on live, but I'm like, holy shit, like this is happening now. Kind of
Yeah.
hype. It kind of gives me Trinivir vibes where I'm like, this is so cool. And then about 1 month later, I'm like, this better not make it to Worlds.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and then the third thing is, Carzy did like a tell-all Twitch interview.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one to talk
Yeah.
about. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'll serve it at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
Serve it
of
up.
the headlines was basically that people were just canceling scrims. No one cared in 2021, by the way.
Yep.
And that like players like Humanoid, this was back when they were on Mad Lions together, would just rush scrims because he wants to go play other video games. Like
Yeah.
this sounds like how we made fun of NA players for being too lazy,
Yeah.
partying, not focused. And I'm like hearing 2021, which is only 2 years past peak EU or peak G2, really.
Yeah.
This is only 2 years past that. So I'm like, holy cow. There's so
Yeah.
much to talk about for that.
There is a lot to talk about that. I don't know how much we'll get into right now,
Yeah,
but
not this time. When EU fails, we can give it as part of the postmortem.
yeah, well, because we'll definitely. This is a very memorable. This is like a mini breaking point, right? A mini Dunzo
Mm-hmm.
manifesto. Honestly, like the fact that he gave this in like what seems to be a formal interview is kind of fucking wild, right? Like the humanoid's still playing. Mad Lions is still a roster. It's like this is Karzi's still playing, right? So the fact that this we're getting this information is pretty wild. Um, 2021 to bring people back. Mad Lions was really good this year, by the way. Okay, Mad Lions went to 5 games against near peak Danwon. Danwon had just won everything in 2020, and they went into 2022 or 2021. Sorry, Danwon was the best in 2020. In 2021, Danwon was basically the second best. They went 5 games at MSI finals, barely lost. They went 5 games at Worlds, barely lost. Right? Danwon was really good this year, and Mad Lions took them to 5 games at MSI, and then at Worlds, Mad Lions got out of that group of death with like TL and LNG and um, Genji and stuff, and they had to face Danwon in quarters, and they did get 3-0'd by them. But Danwon was like in another world, just the best team this year, right? If you go 5 games in finals at MSI and at Worlds, you have an argument to be the best team that year that just kind of got unlucky in the finals, right? Like Danwon was the best. So like this Mad Lions team was really good, actually. Like, let's not rewrite history. We're all EU haters here, but let's not rewrite history. They were really good. And to realize that they didn't give a crap is so funny. Like, what does that mean? I don't know what to take away from this, except to say that, like, sometimes talent is more powerful than hard work, right? That's what it makes me feel like, at least with this team, is that talent and just timing is more powerful than hard work. Obviously, if you combined it, it would have been better. But like, this was just a really good team, and they didn't play the game very much. None of them played solo queue apparently, or they were all trolling scrims so they could go play WoW or whatever. They had a raid later. Like, what the actual hell? Yeah.
I I first of all, I agree. Like talent can go past this. This is also to give context. After 2019, there was a very strong period of time, and I agreed with it. Like EU was better than Korea, like,
Yeah.
and this 2021 was kind of like the point where we're like, okay, that one's really good. So like we were
Korea's
starting to
coming
wean
back.
off of that, right?
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
fact that even Mad Lions, right, could go to MSI and take them to Game 5 and play that competitively, and it was one of those Game 5s where I actually felt like more of this game should have been Mad Lion wins. I remember how disappointing it was, but exciting as well, right? So this was this time where it was still neck and neck, right? Like, oh yeah, Danwon won 2020, and G2 got to really far in 2019 and won MSI, right? Like
Mhm.
there was a lot of hype for EU, and I think what's disappointing to me is like I used to think that the decline of EU was just because oh yeah, G2 is the only good team and the production budget cuts. That's why it's less and less hype. But it's also they rested on their laurels. They finally got better than Korea for like better than one tournament, right? So you could
Mhm.
make a case for it, and like they were doing well. They were like competing, and the only people they couldn't beat was the Chinese teams. And it was like you're like, oh, maybe there's a competition, but instead of locking in and really bringing like respect to the region, they just at least these guys, right? The non G2 people, it sounds like, because we used to make fun of Wonder for this. It's actually
Yeah.
ridiculous to me that I'm seeing the exact same memes, but
Mm.
for a whole like groups of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, and like let's also be real, right? Is that like Wonder having those memes, we all respect Wonder because he's a great player. But let's not kid ourselves. And I'm sure if Wonder looked deep down inside himself, he could have probably worked a bit harder. And he did work really hard, right? Of course. But the fact that there were WoW memes means you definitely could have worked harder. And we know the kind of bullshit that Korean and Chinese players do, right? They have the best talent, they have the best environment, but they still work the hardest, which is why they're at the top, right? Because even with all of like they could work less hard as EU or NA, but because of their talent and their environment and their culture and stuff, they could still win. But no, they still choose to work really, really hard as well. And yeah, EU should have done that. EU should have kept that because, like you're alluding to, if EU kept the grind on, if they didn't take their feet off the pedal, maybe in 2024 right now, EU could still be considered better than Korea, or EU could still be considered a top 2 or top 3 region. Because right now they're barely in top 4 region, right? It looks and feels like it's G2, but NA is like really quickly coming up on their heels as a region, just overtaking EU. And yeah, it's sad. It is sad. And then let's like mirror it with the fact of how G2's doing, right? So starting from last year to this year, we got a lot of insight to what G2's doing, especially from their coach Romain, right? He posts their scrim results, who leaves scrims, how many scrims they win, blah 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 blah. It was very interesting for the viewer to see. But I think another thing that's been interesting that I know from interviews is that G2 took they took the professional sports route where they were monitoring their food intake, their sleep schedules, their exercise habits, in addition to doing like meditation and like doing sports therapy, in addition to like having really dedicated scrims and playing stuff a lot, right? And it went like the other, it did like prove to be beneficial because they had a really good MSI performance. It didn't like fully come over the edge, but they had a really good one. They had, you know, they had some moments last year at Worlds, right, where they had, even though they lost to NRG, they had a really close 2-1 with BLG, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like G2, they went the other route. They went the extreme, the opposite of Mad Lions, and it's still not enough. They're burning out, it feels like. It feels like summer G2 is so much worse than spring because, grinding like that, the sports environment is really hard on you. It's really, really tough to be so meticulous and consistent. So it's tough, man.
Especially when
It's
you're not
tough.
you're not surrounded by people like nipping at the heels. I mean, I guess in the sense that they lost, right? But that again, I keep feeling like it's them losing just as much to themselves as to the others. Like it's a half-half.
Yeah. I do feel like G2 at MSI, their first T1 series, they lost to themselves, right? They should have beat T1 that first time around when it went to Game 5. But they lost. I mean, they lost to Shopkeeper, right? Hansama didn't build LER, so like, it's like, man, G2 was really close. But still, when Korea tries this hard and they have all everything going for them, it's hard to beat them, right? But that is a great topic, great interview. Highly recommend watching it. Makes you really think about the players in the region, like not differently, but like it kind of proves a lot of the shit we talk about Western pros, right? Like, um, okay. Next topic I want to talk about with you is something you said is Garen and Nasus mid, right? So I'm actually, I'm an early adopter. Okay, I've been playing Garen mid since like the beginning of this year. Since they made the changes for Mythics, Stridebreaker being a normal item, and you being able to like build like Infinity Edge or Stridebreaker essentially, that's the Garen tech. It made him insane. He's one of the most OP champions this year in general, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people are starting to get up on that. You see a lot of like top tier players kind of like getting annoyed with Garen and how stupid he is because he is a really stupid champion. So I know like Tyler One, Sanchovies, and Aloys, these are all like top laners. They all had their Garen arc because I don't know. I found like some like clips or highlight reel of like them getting smurfed on by Garens, and it was like the dumbest thing ever. Now they just play Garen, and it's really broken and stupid. So yeah, I think he's very viable mid lane. I think he has the most degenerate playstyle ever. Um, so I'll tell you a bit about it. Pretty much, Garen just takes it. He just takes it really hard in the first couple of levels, okay? But as soon as he either gets like 3 points in E, his spinny thing, or he can like reset and get like a dagger or so, he can just one shot the casters with his E and almost kill the melees. So he can just not play mid lane. He just goes up, he tanks you, he doesn't care. He just clears the wave. He runs away. He heals with his passive, and repeats it, rinses and repeats. Right. That's the baseline Garen stuff, but it gets even worse because if you run like Ignite or Ghost, you can just get 100. You can get to like level 6, level 7 with a Berserker's Greaves and maybe a longsword, you can get like 100 to 0'd by Garen. It's like more like 80%. But like one trade into like just another combo by Garen, you're just dead. So it's really stupid. It's really stupid. And then he's a late game monster, right? He's really tanky, but he builds full crit and he one shots you. So I do think the champion is pro viable, in my opinion, in certain situations. Nasus
Mm.
mid is, I think, it's just Emax. Nasus Emax is really good into 80 carries. It's become a popular top lane counter pick into 80 carries top because so many range tops are up there as well. You just go Emax, you just push the wave, you poke them, you stack Qs, you get Trinity Force, you run them down, you kill them, no counterplay. So I don't know which one we'll see more of, but I do think we will see at least a little bit of it. Yeah, so that's
They
that.
lowered the mana cost for the E, which is why Nasus is doing it too. It's like it makes it
I didn't know
easier for
that.
him to spam E's to clear waves and just to sustain in mid or top.
Yep, yep. Didn't know that. Yeah, because we already see Nasus top with Emax with Doran Ring, right? We saw Morgan play it. We saw I think Broken Blade play it. We saw a couple other people play it. So yeah, Nasus top. Degenerate as hell, right? This is a response to 80 carry meta, by the way. That's why it's happening. Yeah. Okay. Last thing. Here's what I wanted to talk about. Uh. Oh yeah, it was a little thing that LS did. It's actually not that notable, but LS he made a tweet that got kind of trending where he was flaming 100 Thieves for trying to take mid tier one against Team Liquid, and then Team
Mm-hmm.
Liquid they had Talia, they flew in and they killed a bunch of 100 Thieves members, and he got a lot of backlash because the whole community was like, no. Getting mid tier one is really valuable. Like it's worth more than just the gold itself. It's like the vision control and blah 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 and all this stuff. And LS decided to release a video where he's talking with Raven, Immortal, the Shopify coach, Max Waldo, former C9 coach, and some guy who's a StarCraft player, who's a famous StarCraft player or whatever. And
What
I
was his
watched
name?
it. StarCraft. I don't remember. He's top 8 right now. He like won Worlds earlier or something like that. Um,
Okay. Okay.
but
Understood.
but you can probably check LS's channel and find the video. It's a good video.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good video. You get a lot of insight into honestly like Shopify's coach. The most interesting part of the that video is actually Riven and hearing him talk and his perspectives and views as a coach on Shopify because that team was bad, right? So he seemed pretty intelligent though, if I'm being honest. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I agree with LS like 100%. Like 100 Thieves was playing Smolder in this game. They didn't have to force the issue. They didn't have to take a mid tier one. I totally agree in the inaction is action sort of aspect that sometimes LS pushes. I just think he's like just pushes in a way that isn't very digestible. But I don't always agree with his takes, but I think he was like spot on with his take. I really could not disagree with it. So yeah, I don't know, but did you catch any of this? I don't know. Do you have anything to say about it? I don't know.
I didn't catch the actual video. I saw it come up. I think if I'm hearing you right, if this was one of the top players, this is probably is this Rainer? Well, I
Yeah,
recognize
yeah.
him. He's been
I think it
around
is
StarCraft
Rainer.
for a long ass time.
Yeah, yeah, it's Rainer.
So
Yeah.
awesome. I love StarCraft, and that's where Ellis comes from as well. I didn't catch the video, so I can't comment on what he said for it. But there is definitely an argument for like when you should be breaking a turret because yes, there's the goal, and the age-old adage is you get the jungle control, you get the snowballing, you get the vision control. Yes, but as we've mentioned, right, there is a certain mm, there's like a certain benefit you get from actually keeping things the same way, right? Lane swapping, breaking up, a ramming, that's actually really bad for certain
Mm,
characters, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So I agree with you on that principle. I would have to actually watch his points, but if that is what he's bringing up, there are it's like 80% of the time, 85% of the time, take the first turret easy. But there are moments where it makes sense to time it with like you have to have a reason to be breaking it then like you have some kind of intention to use that control
Yeah. And
because
what are you
otherwise
giving
you're
up
like
for
okay
it? Yeah.
now Smolder's got to go on bot lane by himself and hopefully not die and
Yeah.
now you're actually in danger which it sounds counterintuitive right
Yeah. But I okay. 100% agree with that, and that's definitely in like the more nuanced situations. I just thought it was so funny how much backlash LS got on Twitter because in the screenshot that he took, where he's flaming 100 Thieves for trying to take mid tier one, right? Like 100 Thieves dies when they try to take. I'm like, obviously it's bad. Like, why is everybody flaming LS when he's looking at a screenshot of 100 Thieves trying to take Team Liquid's mid turret, and then Team Liquid flies in on Talia, ganks them, and then they die. And I'm like, yeah, obviously it was bad. They shouldn't have done that. That like, there's no reason for you to be playing a Smolder comp. You try to drop Rift Herald into mid lane and to die for mid tier one. Like, it's never worth to die for mid tier one. Not really, right? Especially when you're playing a scaling comp like Smolder. So I just thought it was funny how, you know, yeah, people really didn't like LS in that take, but like his take was so legitimate, and I think when you go into more nuanced situations, like, you know, let's say Team Liquid, they didn't actually decide to rotate and defend mid. How is that kind of like, how's that kind of domino effect later on? Um, yeah, I mean, it takes time to invest to take mid tier one, right? Like, they have a Talia, like you lose side lane control. So like, yeah, maybe you get the mid tier one, you get tempo on the mid wave, but you just lose tempo on both side waves. Maybe that's not worth it. Maybe that could lose you the game. You don't know. So yeah, that was just something I found interesting. It's a great video, honestly. It doesn't matter if you're an LS fan or not. If you're an LCS fan, you get to hear insights from both coaches, Max Waldo and Revan, which is just, invaluable, honestly, if you're an LCS fan. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. Anything else you wanted to talk about, LCS related? No, solid podcast. Yeah, I'm excited for next weekend, and I gotta be honest, this is just the best time of the year, right? Playoffs are starting in playoffs are like, on their way in LCS. Season finale is happening in LEC. LCK playoffs are just about to get going. I can't wait for the upper bracket matches. Oh my god, it's gonna be so fun. LPL's playoffs are pretty deep in there. They're almost done, I think. So, yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for showing up, Kevin. Try not to be too toxic. We'll see you on the next episode, and peace.